The story of Lotus is one of a boy who was born with a need for speed, who went from making race cars in his girlfriend's parents' backyard shed to winning 7 Formula One championships. But along the way, he lost 2 of his best friends, who were also race drivers. So buckle up, we're going on a journey of max speed and max danger. And stick around till the end of the video to discover how the Lotus founder was tragically betrayed through the takeover of a Chinese engineering company. Born in 1928 in a little London village, Colin Chapman always craved speed. Once grown up, he realized there was only one way to satisfy his craving: cars. But there was one issue. Colin had never raced cars before, so what did he do? Of course, he built his own car. Using a 1930 Austin 7 as his base, he did whatever it took to craft this car into his perfect race car. And in 1948, his creation was ready. He called it the Mark I, aka Lotus. Rumor has it the name Lotus came from his girlfriend, Hazel Williams, who Colin nicknamed Lotus Blossom. Hazel supported Colin through it all his wacky ideas and insane work hours. In fact, the Mark I was built in Hazel's parents' backyard shed. And when Colin was away, it was Hazel that got her hands dirty, so the Mark I was ready for race day. They were quite the team. Colin and Hazel entered the Mark I into some local racing events. Colin was a terrific driver, and the Mark I kept up with other cars easily. Their secret to victory, however, was the fact that Colin spent hours reading the racing rulebook in order to exploit loopholes in the system. With the prize money from those races, Colin and Hazel developed the Mark II, and then the Mark III. Soon, people started taking notice of Colin Chapman and his garage-built race cars. By 1952, Colin and Hazel formed Lotus Cars, a company that specialized in building race cars and winning races. By the time they got to the Lotus Mark VI, Chapman and the Lotus team had racers banging on their doors to buy models of their winning racer. They ended up selling 100 Lotus 6s through 1956, and at that point, Colin and Hazel knew that they were onto something here. So the next generation of Lotus, the Lotus 7, had to be something special. It had to embody Colin Chapman's race car ethos, one that appears on garage walls and t-shirts even today. Simplify and add lightness. These were the words that Chapman lived by, and for years he'd been saying that adding power makes you faster in the straights, but removing weight makes you faster everywhere. And so the Lotus 7 was just that: a small, nimble, extremely lightweight, purpose-built sports car. People went nuts for it, and Lotus sold nearly 2,500 of them. By now, anyone who knew anything about racing knew about Lotus. Chapman kept racing too, working his way through the lower leagues, winning race after race. But soon, that was about to change. Lotus decided to join the big leagues, F1. But where they used to dominate in the lower ranks, Team Lotus was humiliated in F1. It wasn't until 2 years later, in 1960, the Lotus 18 won their very first race at the Monaco Grand Prix. The next year, they won the US Grand Prix, and then the year after became the 1963 F1 World Champions. And the wins don't stop there. There were now a myriad of road-going Lotuses, with the Lotus 7 still on sale, but also the Lotus Elite and the new Lotus Elan. The Elan sold somewhere around 12,000 units over its lifetime. Back in F1, over the next few years, Lotus had to make a lot of changes to their cars to keep up with speed innovations and sport regulations for the time. 1968 was the year that Team Lotus said they would be holding the gold once again, until it all went horribly wrong. In Chapman's mission for lightness, Lotus race cars may have been some of the fastest on the grid, but their structural integrity wasn't great. In 1968, Lotus had dominated the season opener race and were favoured to take the season by storm. Lotus driver Jim Clark entered an exhibition race so he could stay sharp for the next F1 battle. But on the 5th lap of the race, Clark's Lotus lost control and careened off track into the trees. The crash was disastrous, and Clark suffered severe injuries to his skull and neck. And despite first responders' best efforts, Jim Clark died before he could reach the hospital. This was truly a devastating moment for everyone at Lotus, and triply so for Colin Chapman. He and Clark were incredibly close, with Chapman stating that he had just lost his best friend. Chapman, though, was not the type to give up after something like this. He had to keep racing, because quite simply, it was who he was. Graham Hill, another Lotus driver, took the F1 World Championship in his Lotus 49. Then in 1970, Lotus revealed the world's first wedge-shaped F1 car, the Lotus 72, and it dominated on the track thanks to ace driver Jochen Rindt. That is, until the end of the season in Monza, where Rindt's brake shaft snapped and veered into a barrier, killing him. Another driver killed by the speed of Lotus. And in a strange turn of events, Rindt had won enough points from dominating the beginning of the season, and so he became the first and only person in history to win the F1 World Championship, deceased. Once again, this wasn't enough to deter Chapman, and in 1972, 73, and 78, Lotus took the championships home, making the 70s one of the greatest periods of racing for Lotus. Off the racetrack, however, their road cars really struggled to pick up traction, and there were even more tragedies to come. In December of 1982, Colin Chapman suffered a heart attack and died at just 54 years old. The man who built Lotus with his very hands defied the odds and won 7 F1 World Championships. With Colin gone, everyone believed Lotus would go along with him. Cue Hazel Chapman, the wife of Colin, who'd been there from day one. When Colin passed, Hazel stepped up and made sure Lotus continued in the right direction. And so in 1986, Lotus came under the wing of General Motors. But, to make a long story short, their effort was, well, a flop. So in 1993, Lotus was sold again, this time to ACBN Holdings, a company owned by Romano Artioli, the owner of Bugatti, who was already in major financial debt, and just 2 years later the company was sold again, this time to Proton, a Malaysian car manufacturer. At this point, Lotus really was the unwanted orphan of the sports car world, and now they were owned by a Malaysian company that most of the world had never heard of. Lotus, yet again, was doomed. Well, maybe not. Back in 1994, Lotus had begun developing a new sports car. It was to be small, mid-engined, rear-wheel drive, and lightweight. The then owner, Romano Artioli, liked the prototype so much that he named it after his granddaughter, Elise. Proton saw the scrapped Elise and recognized its potential, and so they went all in to finish the job. And believe it or not, it worked. The automotive world praised the Elise for its superb handling, featherweight body, and racy go-kart looks. It truly embodied Colin Chapman's simplify and add likeness, with nearly 2,000 cars a year being sold in the first few years. Lotus finally had some positive momentum, and in 2005, Lotus created the more track-oriented Exige, which could do 0 to 60 in just 3.9 seconds. People loved this absolute rocket ship of a Lotus, and Lotus had finally found their new groove. Gearheads around the world knew the Lotus name, and kids and teens obsessed over Elises and Exiges they saw on the streets. But there was one issue. Lotus were only offering cars for hardcore track enthusiasts, and there was a massive market of people who wanted some of that Lotus magic, while still driving pleasantly on the road. The Lotus Evora was an all-new design that was designed for the road before the track, designed for 4 passengers with a Toyota 3.5-litre V6 mounted in the middle, making 276 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. Journalists called it a grown-up Elise, something that gave the thrills of a small sports car that had far more grace than the Elise or Exige could muster, going head-to-head with the Porsche Caymans of the world. Now Lotus had 3 great cars, all critically successful and actually selling well. So Lotus must have been thriving, right? Well, not exactly. Proton, the company that owned Lotus, was failing and desperately needed a lifeline to save them from bankruptcy. That lifeline was Geely, a giant Chinese car manufacturer. After taking over, they invested over $120 million of their own cash into Lotus's growth. Finally, a parent company that was not only financially stable, but would invest in Lotus building cars the Lotus way, the simplify and add likeness way, the Colin Chapman way. At least that's what we thought, because fast forward 5 years later, and it doesn't look that way. In July of 2019, Lotus unveiled something never done before. The Lotus Evija would be Lotus's first hypercar and also Lotus's first electric vehicle, and in 2021, Lotus told the world the Elise, Exige, and Evora were being axed. Yup, all 3 of the cars that rebooted the brand after a near half-century hiatus, cut The new Lotus Emira would be the successor to the 3 Classics, and will be the very last Lotus powered by an internal combustion engine. Yep, the brand that built its reputation on simplistic elegance was now telling the world that they would be going all electric forever. It was Lotus's simplistic reputation that got them through till today, all thanks to Colin Chapman. But not just Chapman the individual, but his ideology and what he stood for. Chapman's mantra was simplify and add lightness. It's why his race cars were so damn fast and freaking dangerous. No one said his philosophy was perfect, but it was distinct to Lotus, and the only reason Lotus rose from the ashes was because the Elise was a complete embodiment of the Chapman way. Now Lotus, in the hands of Guy Lee, have already started to make decisions that both Colin and Hazel Chapman would be totally against. The Emira just isn't the lightweight sports car that the Elise and Exige once were, and Lotus has plans for a 4-door sedan, and not one, but 2 different SUVs, Lotus SUVs. In what world does an SUV simplify and add lightness? Lotus, in just a few short years, have made a massive leap in ideology and lost the core spirits of their founders. And that is the real tragedy we see with Lotus today. If you thought Lotus's story was crazy, wait until you hear about how a poor boy created Jaguar. This epic story is available for you to watch right now by clicking the thumbnail on screen.